So here we have the Velo Brain Box. What it is a closed loop hydronic system where we have a fixed speed pump and an ECM pump. Now we have the ability to run one or the other. We have zone valves here. Okay, we've got our flow gauge meters right here. Here's our pressure gauge, our watt meter, expansion tanks, air eliminator, another diaphragm tank down below. So this is a closed loop hydronic system. Right now the AC motor, the fixed speed pump, is running, and we are running 7 gallons a minute, consuming 0.2 bar, which is about 6.6 feet ahead, consuming 64 watts of electricity. Okay, so all the zones are open, and we are consuming 64 watts. And this is where we're at on the pump curve, right here. Okay, now I'm going to simulate what happens in a system. I'm going to start to close zone valves. Demand is being met. Zones are closing. Okay. So what I have done is I've essentially choked down half of the flow on this. We're about 3.5 gallons a minute now. You can hear a little cavitation actually. The pressure bar is increased from 0.2 to 0.3 bar, and our watt consumption has decreased. So we're now at 3.5. We're at about 0.4 bar, which is 9.9 feet ahead, and we are at 59 watts. Okay, what has actually happened on the pump curve? Decreased flow, increased head, rides the pump curve up. Now I'm going to close some more zone valves. What happens in a system? More demand is being satisfied. Our flow is decreased again, so now we're about 1.75 gallons a minute. Up to 0.4 bar, which is about 13.2 feet ahead, 53 watts of consumption. So 13.2 feet ahead, 52 watts, up on the pump curve, decreased flow again, riding the pump curve up again. Now I'm going to do what you're never supposed to do to a circulator, and I'm going to deadhead it. Zero flow across the system. Our pressure gauge has spiked to the max feet ahead that it can, and our power consumption really hasn't changed a whole lot. So we're at 13.5 feet ahead, which is the max that circulator can do. We're at 50 watts. We are literally deadheading the pump at this point. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead, open these zones back up. I'm going to turn this pump off. Switch our pressure gauge. Turn this pump on. Now you're going to notice that power consumption on this pump, on the ECM pump, keeps going down. There's a reason for that. These EC motors, they start in a soft start, is what we call. So they're starting in asynchronous mode, meaning that they are firing at full rate and they are trying to find their synchronous mode here. Okay? So all the zones are open. Our flow is the same, 7 gallons a minute. We are still doing the same amount of head as before, but we are using drastically less energy, 33 watts. So here's our stats on the fixed speed pump. Here's our stats on the ECM. So we're doing the same flow and head. It's just that we're consuming 32 watts of electricity compared to 64. Okay? So here we are on the pump curve. Now I'm going to replicate what happens in a system. Zone valves start to close. And I'm closing these zone valves much faster than regular zone will close. Okay. So now we're at about 3.5 gallons a minute, and our pump, as you can see, is actually starting to slow itself down. Okay, and our energy consumption is decreased. So now we're at about 5.5 feet ahead, consuming 13 watts. What's actually happened on the pump curve is right here. Again, cut the flow in half. .75 gallons a minute. Our pressure is still decreasing. And our watt consumption has gone down even more. So now we're about 4 feet ahead, consuming 9 watts. And we're there on the pump curve. Now I'm going to go ahead and deadhead this pump. Zero flow across the system. Pressure meter is decreasing because it senses that all zones are closed. Our watt consumption is reduced again. And now we're about 3.5, about 6 watts. And we are here on the curve.